Nadir. How are you today? This
Man,
evening, shall I say?
how goes it? So it's morning there. What
10:38 a.m.
10:38 a.m. and it's 8:38 p.m. here
Yep.
yesterday, right? So you're in the future.
Well, that's what you want to call it. I just was going to
I'm,
say a different
I,
day.
I'm speaking to the future. It's tomorrow there, right?
Well, I haven't learned anything too special I could share.
No,
No.
you don't know about any cyber attacks that are coming or anything.
Oh,
No.
stop that. So, I guess I want to get a little bit into your background, and a lot of people probably hear little snippets about your history of, you're pretty multifaceted, person. I'll go back to, yes, I met this guy a long time ago, but I didn't realize that the onion had so many layers. I thought you were just a really cool, talented person, but I didn't know what watching you over the years, I've watched you grow as well. So, which has been really cool because it's not a one trick pony. So how could you say that, what was Nadir like at, maybe I would say, what were you thinking? Because I think a lot of people come into grips of who they're going to be around, being around 10 years old, maybe. I think that shape comes to form.
Yeah, I mean, for me, a lot of that stuff happened around 14. 10 is maybe a little early, because we had just my dad was in the military when I was born. And so he was in the military. He retired from the military. I was about 7
Okay.
when he retired. And so then we moved to my mom's hometown. So we moved from Fort Knox, Kentucky to my mom's hometown in East Tennessee. So around 10, I was kind of still trying to get my bearings. I didn't really feel like I fit in quite, quite enough. But we did start, that's probably around the time I started playing trumpet.
Yeah.
So that's when the music started coming in, when I was already like singing in the church choir and things like that. But I really started coming into myself and who I was going to be, and destined to play the funk, around 14 years old,
Okay.
uh, and just kind of a lot of things happened around that time. um, as far, I started really getting into music as I was a freshman, sophomore in high school, and I was into jazz, and I actually made the jazz band, as a freshman, which was kind of rare.
Awesome.
And but then also around this time, I had a friend an older friend at church, who started loaning me these records, because I lived in Elizabethton, Tennessee. I grew up in Elizabethton, Tennessee. It's a small town about the size of that room that you're in. Uh,
what was the occupancy around the time you were coming up there?
so population then and now is around, what, 12 to 15,000 people.
Wow, pretty
No,
small.
yeah, you could fit us into an arena, or half of, that. Well, it's bigger than Trump's last rally, but smaller than the
Wow.
arena, you know. So small town, East Tennessee. But one thing that was really cool about our schools there is we had a really, really good music program. So there was, we had a jazz band, we had the concert band, marching band, we had a guitar class that a lot of the kids were in, things like that. Good choir program. So the music program there was really good.
Cool.
And so I started developing, and the band directors were very encouraging of whatever you wanted to do musically. You want to write songs, you want to arrange, you want to, they, when I was a senior, they let me arrange something. It was horrible, but they actually let me write it out. and I wrote all the parts for everybody, and we put it on everybody's stands, and we went through the motion of actually playing it. And I was like, yes, this sounds terrible, but they encouraged me.
Did they tell you it was terrible, or you just realized it was terrible?
They didn't tell me ahead of time that it was terrible. They said, one of your classmates has written this. He wrote the score. He wrote out all the parts for you to play. And, they could look at it and they could see that everything was out of time and, raggedy. It was raggedy. They encouraged me to do it. They encouraged me to make that mistake. They allowed, and the entire band played it one time because it was terrible.
What time?
All we did was we sight read it one time. It's like, oh, this is terrible. And then I wasn't, it was like, okay, yeah, I agree. It's terrible. Let's move on. Let's do something else.
So where'd you go from there?
Well, so that was around then, but then around that same time, maybe a little later, a friend from church, older friend from church, was loaning me these funk records. And so, because in East Tennessee at the time, there was one rock station and there was a lot of country stations. This is right as MTV is starting to come in. So MTV's not playing black music yet.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of isolated as far as the types of music that I hear. So I have my brothers and my parents' old records, and I have country and rock that are being played. And so, I'd kind of grown up on my brother's old Parliament Funkadelic and Slave records and things like that from the 70s.
Good diet.
But then around early 80s, my friend Freddie starts dropping The Time, and he starts dropping Prince's 1999 album, and he starts dropping Cameo's Alligator Woman, and all this stuff. Now I knew Knights of the Sound Table from Cameo.
Yeah.
Because I went and visited my cousin. I have a cousin that lives in LA who later ended up playing for Barry White, and he was drumming for Barry White. At this time, when I was really young, he actually had a cover band that he played, and his keyboard player was a guy named Chucky Booker. And so
Chucky Booker
was lead singer and keyboard player in this band with my cousin Mark, and had a really cool band. And we went out to visit them one time, and I saw them, this what was it, 9-piece, 10-piece band playing in my Aunt Almeida's garage, playing freaky dancing and ghetto life, and some serious stuff, and I was like, this is cool. This is real. I can do this. I can see this,
Awesome.
If my cousin can do it, maybe I can do it too. And so, so then again, my friend has given me these records later as I'm developing my musical tastes and all of that stuff. I have my brother's hand-me-down bass guitar, so I'm trying to learn how to play a little bass. Had another cousin who lived in Knoxville, and actually, let me show you. I know you hate it when I do this. This is the last time.
He's gonna run down the street to the store.
the original Leo Fender Music Man.
Wow.
What
year is that?
This is 76. This is either 76 or 77. So it's like the first or second year.
Wow.
Of the Music Man. And so
I don't think I've ever heard you use that.
You've heard it. You've played with me with this because we've both, this is my main bass. And
you had that with Me Fi Me?
No, I did not play it with Me Fi.
You were playing a 5-string, right?
I had a 5-string for a while. Let me put this back. So I had a 5-string for a while.
Excuse me.
I had a
hello.
Bye. Say bye. Wait, say bye.
Bye.
All right.
Bye.
No, no, no. You gotta go. You gotta go. Bye. Come on, you're gonna say hi too. Hurry up, hurry, 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 hurry.
Goodbye.
Say bye.
Bye.
Crispy treats. Go, go, go. Bye. So yeah, when I was playing with MiFi, I had a couple of other basses, and this one I got after my cousin passed away, and it's just infinitely better than those other basses. And the other basses, I had an Ibanez that got stolen. I had a fretless, whatever. So no, but this is my main bass that I've been using for years.
Cool.
So we played together with this bass, but you haven't seen this bass, I guess. So that's true.
Okay. Cool.
But yeah, so around that time, my cousin was playing bass, and my brother gave me his hand-me-down bass, and so that's when I started learning to pick up bass. So I started writing songs in high school with bass guitar and a Roland TR 505 drum machine.
Yeah.
The 505 was like trying to sound like real drums, but it was, really pretty basic.
I remember that machine pretty well.
Yeah, so I was playing bass and drum machine and trying to write songs, but there were no chords. I didn't have, we had a piano, but I didn't have the patience to let my mom taught piano. I didn't have the patience to let her teach me. I would do some things or whatever, but yeah, so anyway, so around my senior year of high school, I ended up getting a guitar. The Sears Harmony guitar thing, horrible guitar, but I could now play a couple of chords, and I started writing more songs or all that. So
okay,
so yeah,
I hear that. That's you.
Yeah, that's all. I'm sorry, there all these things are but yes. So that's how I started getting into stuff, and then college and playing in bands and all of that.
So just when was it when you started actually, I would say probably really when you knew you were serious and you started really playing out a bit more, and even during college, what was fueling you? What was the inspiration? It takes a big engine to keep driving through this industry and keep driving to, you see a lot of people, I get kids today that I'm teaching or whatever, or young adults, or even some adults that are a bit older, still thinking that you must go on a talent show of some sort and that somebody's coming to get you still, that there's an A&R dude like back in the day. I'm going, do you understand what Prince did? What he was talking about long ago? We're empowered.
Right. Now we are, yeah, I did the whole, trying to get a record deal, dealing with the A&Rs, all that kind of stuff. I guess I got serious around 14. At 14 is when I was like, I want to play music. That's when I was kind of focused, and this is what I want to do. And everything that I did in life was kind of shaped around, I'm going to play music. Yep. So I chose Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, because they had a recording industry management program.
And they had agriculture.
Agriculture. They had quite a bit of agriculture, yes.
You drove me through.
I they did.
And I was like, yo, got cows.
you had to go past that to get to the studio. They did. They had big farms. They're still big agriculture school. But
no joke.
We had one of the first public schools that had a recording industry program, because we were so close to Nashville. So the college ends up being at least at the time ended up being a feeder for a lot of entry-level jobs in country music in Nashville.
Yeah.
And so but I went to MTSU because I knew that I wanted to write. I knew that I wanted to produce. I knew that I wanted to engineer largely my own stuff, but I wanted to work with other people too. And that's kind of, I just kind of at that age, you know, this is what I want to be when I grow up, and I am living exactly what it was that I wanted to live, with obvious different changes and adjustments for reality, right? Because I
Yeah.
did go through the time where I was trying to get a record deal like all the other bands that were out there, and we had a rock band called Dancing with Ellie, and ended up being seen at this rock club. I think there was like 4 people in the club, uh, and somebody had some artist had a showcase at the club
Okay.
right before our band played, and we got up to play. I think he had called us. Hey man, you know, the guy that started the club was a guy named Tommy, and Tommy was, hey man, we had cancellation, man. It's like a Wednesday night, but you know, I can't pay y'all anything, but y'all won't come down. I'll give you some beer. I'll give y'all a 6-pack of beer, and y'all just come down and
The
play.
old school.
You know. And so Tommy Smith. So we came down and played, and the program director for the local rock station happened to be there, and he told this guy named Corbin Dooley to stick around and watch this band. He's like, you should check these guys out. They're pretty good. Yes, there's nobody here in the club, but these guys are actually pretty good. You should check them out.
Awesome.
And yeah, and so Corbin stuck around, and we became really good friends. He's a mentor. He tried for a long time. He was working for EMI Records at the time, doing marketing around the time that they had, what was that group? Jesus Jones. And
Yeah.
but a little bit later, he was doing marketing for them when they had a band called Arrested Development and that kind of thing. So so those ties just kind of were always there. And so when I stopped playing with Dancing with Ellie after a while. And I was invited by this producer that had also seen us play and had seen me sing, but also knew that I played bass. A guy named Chris Cuban invited me to go on tour playing for Me, playing bass for Me-Fi. So, so that's when I went on that tour. That's when you and I met. We were the opening act. You guys were in the middle. Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy were in the middle. We were opening up for Arrested Development on what was supposed to be this whirlwind nationwide tour, and you guys left in the middle of it. We finished it. It was a great tour. It was fantastic. You guys left after Milwaukee, I think. We started in Wilmington. Is that right?
I don't remember where we started.
I think Wilmington was the first date of that tour. You had been on a couple of tours before then.
Yeah,
already.
right before. I mean, it was like we were doing these pickup things. Like all of a sudden we would get a call to go this place, and we would be home for like a few days and come out, just, you know, pack up a bag. I didn't even get to unpack, really. I got home and did some shows and went back out.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
I don't even remember where we started with you guys.
Yeah. So I think the first date of that tour was in Wilmington, North Carolina, and it was supposed to be, we were supposed to do like 16 dates straight without a day off. Was like the first thing. So, so yeah, I think Wilmington was the first date. We played there, and then the second date was Chapel Hill, and that's when you and I met.
Yeah.
Right. It's Chapel Hill. And then we ended up hanging out in Chapel Hill and just kind of were hanging out for the rest of the tour. So,
well, yeah, and me coming to you guys' room, waking you up, saying you want to come to the gym in the morning.
like, no.
You guys weren't morning people at all. It was you and Mike, right?
Yeah, me and Mike. No.
And I'm all, you know, chipper. Remember, I was at the door, like, yeah,
you're still a morning person. I still am not a morning person.
I said, let's go.
Morning side of the interview, and I'm doing the evening side, right?
Exactly. the same as before.
Yeah.
So I would say, you know, through that period, you know, that's cool that you kept those ties. That's a really funny thing that how that all worked out, but
Yeah.
a true way that how that all worked out, because a lot of people don't realize how great certain ties are, and making those connections and not burning those bridges is a really
Relationships are everything. Relationships are everything. And you don't learn that, I think, well, unless you're taught it. If somebody teaches you that early, then that's one thing. And that's something that I was not taught, but it just kind of happened that I had, that I have so many lifelong relationships that I think are, that's fantastic. And it just happens to be one of the ways that I have traveled through life is with those people that I've been friends with for 20, 30, golly, 30 years,
yeah,
that we've been friends. And and I think at that time there were relationships that I was burning because I didn't understand how important those relationships might be later. And I was young and arrogant and thought I knew everything and thought I was the next, the next big thing.
yeah.
And
But
I think we all did it. I think you have to think that when you're 23,
yeah,
but
I think, I don't know. I sort of learned because I was, coming up around my older brothers who
right.
already were in the arts, and my oldest brother was doing what he was doing, and a lot of that came back of connections. So I kind of made that decision early. I'll
Yeah.
keep the ones that feel comfortable and good, and I see the value in that, and then ones that the other ones that were just probably not gonna be a good thing for both ends of us.
Right.
Just
Right.
just move on.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess that's true. In hindsight, I think there were relationships that I should have handled better back then.
Yeah,
Uh but looking back, I've ended up being okay. It's not like I everything works out for a reason. But some of those relationships just have been really good, long lasting relationships that you just wouldn't think so much about, that at that time. Or at least I didn't. I wasn't thinking
yeah,
along the lines of the value of of those relationships and those connections. And I think that is something that really is important. And it is something that I would counsel anybody. You've got to pay attention to that. And don't do like me and cuss people out for no reason whatsoever.
yeah. And I do teach that to some of the. I have some serious students, and I have some students that are just like ones that are passing through, and they think the magic wand is going to be passed over them, that you can do a few things. And I'm not teaching just drums. I'm teaching music.
So
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
you know what I
And
mean? I'm trying to,
music is life too, right? It's you
yeah.
know
So I've kind of, come into that point of where some of them get it and some of them over here really don't. And I hate to really keep pointing that finger, but I don't think it's just a generational thing. I think it's sort of a background thing. So I don't see it as much here, that most will get it. They'll be like, oh man, I don't need all that. I just want to play some music. I don't want to hear about how the industry really goes. I'm like, everyone needs to know how the industry really goes if you're going to do it.
right. If all you want to do is play, then well, I mean and that's fine. I mean, if you just want to play and you're just gonna play for fun later when you're older, that's fine. I guess that's okay. If you're serious and you really want to play,
Yeah.
what I always counsel my clients, and I do some coaching, more than I do teaching. But for the most part, I have a live production clients and a few people that I coach songwriting and things like that. And what I always counsel them is that the most important things are the intangibles, right?
Yes.
Did you show up on time?
Yeah.
Were you in tune? Did you learn your parts
Yeah.
before you got to the rehearsal, or are you waiting through it after you got there? did you do your homework before the gig? Because like we talked about, those gigs where you're just thrown in and you just got to play. And if you didn't do your work, you're embarrassing everybody, and I mean, I've been that guy before, and I don't like being that guy. And that's the thing, is you gotta, you've got to do that. My one of the guys that plays keyboard in my band is a guy named Phil Whitfield, and he tells his son, who's a really good guitar player and is learning, and Phil tells his son, if you are not the most prepared guy at the rehearsal, then you have not done your job, right? You got to go. You got to know the material better than the leader of the band knows the material. And Phil comes in to my rehearsals and he knows the material better than I do. I'm like, okay, well, yeah, all right.
No, I totally understand that, and
that's the right attitude.
The
right attitude, and he's constantly working. And that's what it's about. He's constantly working, and he plays multiple instruments, and he gets to do what he wants to, and he's doing woodworking on the side. He's making headphone stands and stuff on the side because he's doing what he wants to do. So
yeah, and I dig that, and my whole thing is going, okay, people go, oh, you don't play live as much or whatever, this, and I still practice. You still got to practice, because I'm teaching you. I need to stay a step ahead of you, if not 10.
Right.
And I'm working on, as you probably even hear through audio, you're hearing the difference in what I do. So I'm practicing that. I set a time a day, excuse me, with that. I set a time in a day to do whatever it is scheduled, and it's my time, and it's time to go forward. So it's just, it never stops.
And that's you're a craftsman, and that's your passion. And I think that's the thing too. More than it's a profession, it's a passion. It's something that you're doing. You're not just doing it because it's a job, right?
Yeah.
You're doing it because this is who you are. This is what you're about. And so there are things that you have to do, and you show up every day, and you're a pro at it. And that's the way that you've got to be. It's got to be, that's important. And so, yeah, I mean, if that's not what you're going to do with your life, then that's fine. And if that's what you want to do with your life, then at some point you've got to flip that switch. And there's a guy, Stephen Pressfield is an author, and he talks about turning pro. At a certain point, you've got to turn pro. And he's a writer, so he says at a certain point, you got to just sit down every day at your typewriter, at your computer, and you start banging out words.
Yep.
And it doesn't matter whether it's good or not, you're just banging them out, and eventually you're going to come up with stuff that's good, just working on, you're honing your craft. And it's the same kind of thing. You got to sit down with your instruments. You got to sit, I'm a producer. I sit down with my computer and I'm like mixing, and I'm, doing all this kind of stuff.
Same here.
Better. Right. Exactly. So all of those things this is what we do. It isn't necessarily who we are. We could do something else. We could do other things. I do other things too. But if this is what your passion is, then you've got to jump in and you've got to do it,
Yeah. So, my idea of, looking at it for the future is that it, I love having A&R people and all that stuff a bit too. When you had a good one, and some of that stuff is cool because you get the advances and things that we couldn't do. We couldn't, fund a big tour sometimes and all that stuff. But I try to make that apparent to when, kids are coming up and going, do you realize that, still trying to tell them the old school, it's a loan.
It is. Exactly.
Yeah. It's a loan.
Yeah. And that was one of those things. I think that we, when I was coming up with Dancing with Ellie, and later with Jack Johnson, there was always this sense that because we were doing a lot of rock, and really a rock edged funk or a funky rock, depending on what day it was or what song it was, I guess.
Yeah.
At the time, the industry was really narrow, And especially for Black guys, there was this whole thing of like, you know, we're not going to play your record on our radio station because we already play Living Color. And later it was like, well, we're not going to play your record because we already played Lenny Kravitz.
Yeah.
You know, and that was, and it was, there was this whole thing of like, we can only let one of you in at a time. You know, I would put on an acoustic guitar and everybody, oh, you guys remind me of Hootie and the Blowfish. Hootie and the Blowfish. Oh, you know,
but I got a story to tell you about that one.
Not like Hootie at all.
No.
Right? But I had an acoustic guitar. Oh, it's Hootie and the Blowfish. Oh, nice.
Then they start saying you look like Hootie.
Right. You know, and it's a, you know, oh, you sound like Corey. I don't sound like Corey.
No.
I don't sound like Corey. I don't sound like Lenny. I don't sound like Hootie. None of those. You might make that reference because that's what you know. It's what you might want to do, you know, but
it's familiar to you, so you can put it in the box.
Right, exactly. And that makes people feel more comfortable, and that's fine. You know, it's fine that's that. But when we were trying to get a record deal at the time, you know, they either said we reminded them of somebody of another band that they already liked, or they didn't know whether we wanted to be rock or R&B or what. And I'm like, I just want to be me. I just want to do what I'm doing. And so I think in the long run, and you know, it would have been nice to have the big advances and things like that. The money is really what you need a record label for.
Yep.
The record label is a bank. And that's what you need the record label for is a bank, because you have that bank, and you have, to a degree, a marketing infrastructure that can get out ahead of you, and it's more than it's the infrastructure, it's the marketing dollars that they can put behind you so that they can push you further and promote your music on a wider scale more quickly. So in the long run, while it would have been nice to have those big advances, I feel like I have been able to do my music my way, on my terms, you know, and not had to have it be like a corporate job. I have friends that have had record deals and either been dropped or still in record deals, and it's a job. It's a corporate job. Like, you know, you're reporting to the CEO, you're reporting to this vice president or whatever.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah, you know, and everything is driven by the quarterly balance sheet, and it's not driven by the art, you know. So that's what's important. You can, you know, you might be lucky enough to find somebody that tells you, yes, we just want you to be you, and you do what you do and make it. But if you're not selling records, you're not going to make another record for them. And that's what it's down to. Versus if you approach it as an artist, yeah, I don't get to go on those big tours. You know, I would like to do that with my own band at some point. Right now, you know, that budget is not there because I have to create that budget in other ways. And so
exactly,
I think that it's a matter of, I think that if we stop thinking about the old school music industry and start thinking a little bit more about not even the new school music industry, thinking more about just being an artist and creating art and getting your art out for people to hear. I think that's where we should be.